Okay, one of the questions that's oftentimes asked in yoga is how do I position my hips in the warrior shapes, Virabhadrasana 1 and 2. So I'm going to talk through that. First, Virabhadrasana 1. Okay, so you're going to stand facing the wall, put your hands on the wall, shoulder height. And for this shape, there are lots of different ways to do Virabhadrasana 1 or Warrior 1 with the feet. We could have them hip width apart, we could have them mat width apart, there's even other options. But today we'll just do about hip width apart. So I'm going to ask Lori to center her right foot on the wall. Here, let's put the mat all the way to the wall. Okay. Right foot centers on the wall, the left foot steps back far enough to have the heel down and put it over on the left edge of the mat. Okay, now the reason we turn the heel out is because the restriction in the hip pulls the whole hip and foot into external rotation. So by moving the heel out, just the tiniest bit in this shape gets the impact into the hip and highlights that restriction where it begins to dissolve. The warrior shapes, the Virabhadrasana 1 and 2, are all about the hips. And it's never exclusively about anything in the body when it comes to yoga, because yoga is integrative and it has to take this all inclusive approach. Okay, so now watch. If we take too big of a stance, and already Lori's stance might be a little bit big. We'll see here. Okay, we'll take a exaggerated stance in a moment. But now, the leg stays straight, the heel has to be pressing down, and what tends to happen because of the restriction in the hips is that the hips roll out this way. Okay, so the Warrior 1 shape is all about working on this internal rotation. And that's why when I say to orient your pelvis to the room and square your pelvis to the wall, generally speaking, that means bringing the left hip closer to the wall. And then leveling it with the floor, okay? Some people who have inherent flexibility in their body, they have this ability to bring the left hip way forward, okay, like Lori's demonstrating here. And that is not only, it's not necessary, it could be potentially harmful down the road if done too much, okay? So what you gotta do is work toward leveling your pelvis to the wall, squaring it to the wall, and then leveling it what feels like level to the floor, and then the leg is strong and straight, and that is enough, okay? So watch the tendency to go too far. And then for most of us, see, the hip rolls out this way, that's exaggerated, but most of us are working on the internal restriction that lets us move in that direction. Once you're here, it's far enough. Okay, so just for exaggerated purposes, take too big of a step. If it's too big, now it's see, she's kind of groping for the wall, and now it's really going to get challenging to bring the hip forward. Is it wrong? No, there's nothing wrong in yoga. It's the is it going to bring the results that we want? See, and you can see if it's too far back, then it's going to compromise the SI joint. And we never want to compromise the SI joint. All right? Okay, so come forward. Now, the Virabhadrasana 2 shape. So have a short walk, Lori. Just shake that one off. Okay, and then come back and stand with your legs wide. Toes in, heels out. All right. Now, the Virabhadrasana 2 shape. I'll have Lori turn the right foot out and the left foot in. Okay. Now, this one is a little bit trickier to find because in the traditional world, or I would say more of a the yoga that is kind of contemporary, the way yoga has evolved, we put these shapes into a category called hip openers, and I think that there's too much misunderstanding around that. So if you bring your hands to your waist now, Lori, what oftentimes is cued in this shape is rolling the left hip back. Good. And then you bend the knee, right? And if you put the emphasis on rolling this hip back and kind of putting the body in this same exact plane as the wall behind you, then we run this huge risk of destabilizing the sacroiliac joint, and we do not want to do that. See, and then so the pressure gets pushed into the SI joint, it gets pushed into the low back, and the shape is never about the low back. You cannot have any pain or any disconcerting sensation in your low back in this shape. Okay, so come out of that and put your left foot forward and your right foot back. Let's change it. Okay. So here's the way we cue the hips in this shape. Okay, we got the left foot out, the right foot turned in, and now you can see Lori is standing with relative ease here, right? She can firm her thighs, she can do all this work and anchor down through this leg, and I'm not giving any cues about where to move the hips. All I'm going to do is cue the tailbone down. Look, the tailbone moved down and this left hip moved back a little bit. But I didn't say to wrench this hip back because that's going to load this part of the spine. And it's not designed to, this part of the spine is not designed to deal with this kind of compression. All right? So that's the cueing. The legs are strong, the tailbone is down. Now we could even bend this knee slowly and go into the full shape. Tailbone down. The work is in the hips. The work is in the legs and the knees. If you over cue this part coming back, you're going to run into trouble here. And this can take a lot of time to remedy. Okay? So most of the time we don't even include the arms because there's so much work going on the legs. What benefit is there really of raising the arms? We just want to focus on the subject matter mostly of the shape. All right, and then slowly raise up and release. Good. And so that's how we approach the warrior shapes and focus on the results and really the integrative qualities that they can bring in the hips and the way the hips integrate with the knees and the ankles and the feet and the toes. See, so it's not, see the hip joint is right in here. It's deep, deep, buried in all this flesh. It's right in there, and it's in there where we want the changes to take place, not in the low back. Okay? Hope that helps.